Hey guys, my name is Matt Leopold. I'm the guidance coordinator here at Northside High School, and I just want to welcome you to Northside. We're excited to have you here next year, and looking forward to having students back full time and in the building every day, and I hope that you are as well. So as we begin talking about your middle school experience, there are some really important things for us to cover. So I'm going to talk to you about the technical aspects of things. So I want you to pay real close attention. I know it's kind of weird with things being zoomed in here, but I want to make sure that we take the time to understand the why behind the classes you're about to go through with the counselor that's with you there today. For most of you, this is the next chapter of life going into high school. This is your next chapter of really building, who you are. And for some students, it's a new beginning. So I just want you to, as you go into your freshman year, I want you to take the time to just keep in mind that this is a new chapter and a new beginning for you. So everything that you do, every class that you choose for next year and going forward has relevance. It has a purpose. So I'm going to help you make sense of that here in hopefully just a few minutes. Every class that you take, every grade that you earn becomes a story about you that is accessible to future colleges, to future employers, to more than just you and your parents and your teachers. So it's really important that the grades and everything that you start earning your freshman year are a real accurate reflection of who you are. So that'll make more sense here as I get into the details. So just make sure that the story that you're creating and the schedule that you're designing is the truest you possible. So one of the most important things that we're going to talk about is the rules of how to graduate. So that's really what the diplomas are about. What I'm sharing with you now is also in your freshman scheduling guide. And this is something that you're going to come back to at least once a year, hopefully more than that. It's important that you understand why you're taking specific classes each year and being able to plan what you need to take in following years. So what is in front of you there on the screen is just a breakdown really simply of the diplomas of high school in the state of Indiana. So what you'll see there with the core 40, that is what probably a majority of the students that graduate from high school complete. The core 40 are the 40 classes that most businesses and colleges expect students to complete successfully in order to be able to move on into employment and into some certain levels of college. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit detail here in just a second. Also, you'll see the academic honors and the technical honors diplomas. And students that should be considering those really are students who are planning to go to a four-year college. Student is planning to go, if they're planning to go into a career that requires a four-year degree, and you may not know that yet at this point, then really academic honors needs to be the classes that you're paying attention to the requirements of and talking with your counselor about as we move through scheduling each year. It's not as intimidating as it might sound. Some students might look at this and say, hey, I'm not a top student. I'm not an honors student, but truthfully, if you are a student who is either willing or currently works hard and are a B student, an AB student, you really should be heading into your freshman year of high school, paying attention to the academic honors and technical honors. But I want to start with the core 40 requirements. I want to move through kind of quickly because I know we have a lot to cover today in class. But the core 40 requirements, you'll see this chart. It tells you for each of the subject areas that students have to take classes in, it tells you how many credits. Now, a credit is you get 1 credit for each semester that you successfully complete in high school. So for English, 4 credits is 4 years. So that's English every year. That's pretty self-explanatory. When you go down to math, you'll see that there are 3 specific classes that are required for the Core 40 diploma, which is algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in the classrooms when we are there on the day of the presentations. But if you are a student who's in algebra this year and you're really doing well and comfortable moving on to algebra 2, then go for it. I think that's where you need to be. But if you're a student who who really feels like you need to go through algebra again just to get stronger because you have to have it anyways, for high school graduation, I would start with algebra next year. It's not a bad thing, because if you are working on your Core 40 diploma, you need algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. If you skip right to algebra 2 coming into high school and you're not ready, then that means you still have to take 3 years of math in high school, and algebra doesn't necessarily count for your high school credits unless you're working on your academic honors diploma. So so have some good conversations in class or with your counselor about whether or not you should start with algebra or algebra 2 next year. Most students, I think, really should be starting with algebra or honors algebra unless they are doing exceptionally well. Okay, so that's 3 years of math. Science, you'll see there's specific science classes that are required each and every year. All freshmen start with biology, so that's easy pick for you next year. Social studies, you'll see there are 3 specific classes that are also required. U.S. history is your junior year, government and econ your senior year. World history doesn't have a specific year. Next year, freshmen who are in what's considered the honors block will take honors world history next year. Some students won't take it till their sophomore year, and that's totally okay. You'll see there's some specific categories of electives that students are encouraged to take according to the state of Indiana, but you do not have to take world languages or a foreign language unless you are planning to go to college or working on your academic honors diploma. Then you'll see that there are 2 credits in gym. So gym is a required credit class in high school for 2 semesters, and health. But really the only thing as you're heading into your freshman year that you need to be paying attention to on the Core 40, which is the foundation of classes, is earning your first 2 credits in English, taking your first year of 3 years in mathematics, taking your first of 3 years in science, and then may not be taking social studies next year if you're not taking honors classes. And then you'll be taking gym and health. So that's really 4 or 5 of your 7 classes that you'll be taking in high school. What you do with the rest of the 2 periods that you have available to you is really up to you. It's going to depend upon your pathway that we'll talk about here in just a minute. It also depends upon what diploma you are pursuing. So if you are a student that is planning to complete the academic honors diploma as opposed to the Core 40, then you are doing all of the Core 40 work, but you're doing these additional things, which don't get intimidated by all the words. All it is you're taking an additional year of math while you're in high school, which most students should do anyways if they're going to college. You are taking at least 3 years of a world language, and good news for those of you who have already earned not dual credit, but world language credit in middle school, such as Spanish or French. You may already have some of this underway. You may already have some of this already taken care of, and we'll work with you on transferring those credits. So 3 years of a world language, two credits in art. So far, this isn't overwhelming. Have to have grades of a C or better in the classes that you take, and then a grade point average of a B or better. So that's really the gist of it right there. The other language down here talks about some things that are really going to come up later on during your sophomore, junior, and senior year, where you'll take some classes that are considered dual credit, which are classes that you earn high school credit and college credit for. We'll talk more about that as you move into your freshman year. But the biggest thing really between the Core 40 diploma, between the Core 40 diploma and the academic honors diploma is academic honors students are taking 1 additional math. It's not until your senior year. You're committing to 3 years of a world language. Most of you are probably already doing that. earning a C or better in your classes, probably the same expectation that your teachers and your parents have, and a grade point average of at least a B or better. Okay, so that really probably describes a lot of you as you're getting ready to choose classes. Technical honors is also an honors diploma that students can pursue. Biggest difference between tech honors and academic honors is that students are going during their junior or senior year to our Anthus Career Center for the district and spending at least half a day in a year pursuing one of the career programs. They're still getting a C or higher in all their classes, B grade point average, but because they're spending so much time at the Career Center during their junior or senior year, the state allows them to opt out of taking 3 years of a world language in math, that extra year of math, because they are dedicating so much of their time to their tech program. So that's just a real fast version of those. So one of the things that you'll want to be doing as you're choosing classes and as we're talking counselors and students here in the next day is where do you envision yourself, because that's going to drive some of the classes that you choose for next year, as well as what your classes are on your schedule. So but that's just one piece of the graduation requirements. The other requirements, there's really three things that students have to complete in order to graduate from high school. And we just talked about the classes and grades, that's the diplomas, but there's also these other things called employability skills and post-secondary readiness skills. I don't want you to get too caught up in worrying about these things right now. As long as you are participating in in your high school education and you're working with your counselors on setting up your schedule, we'll help you define these for yourself and what those look like. But I want to give you a quick overview of what this looks like for you. So hang on here as I shift into this next piece. So what I have in front of you, and this is the exact same thing as in the course, your freshman scheduling guide, is a description of these domains. And think of domains as just areas that you have to have experience in before you graduate. Domain 1, that's just your graduation requirements. That's your diploma, your core 40, your academic honors, and your tech honors, okay? So in domain 2, at some point in high school, you have to demonstrate employability skills by participating in 3 different options. And I'm not going to go into great detail on these because it can sound kind of overwhelming, but one of them is a project-based learning experience. So could be something that you are involved in as a part of one of your classes where you're able to document that you were in a project-based experience that benefited the community. Most of our students will qualify under employability skills under this thing called service-based. So service-based is something that has an impact on the community that's already built into your schedule. For example, it could be a student who's in the dance program or the marching band program. Students that are in those programs can actually use that experience as they're demonstrating employability skills without doing anything necessarily additional. Also athletics, students that participate in athletics while they're in high school, once they complete a season, they can utilize that as their service-based experience as well. For some students, their life is got a lot of factors and moving parts. So, they may not participate in these things, but they, at some point are working or they're in one of the career programs that are available at Anthus. That also works as an employability skills. Okay, so the reason we're showing this to you is just to keep in mind that high school, the technical requirements of completing high school isn't just the classes and the grades, but it's also these particular pieces of involvement. And as long as you stay in contact and conversation with your counselor, we're going to help you identify and complete these, but they have to be documented, and we'll work with you on that, okay? So the last piece of the graduation pathway that students have to complete is this big word called post-secondary competencies. And all that means is something that shows that after high school that you're ready to move on. So the good news is, for those of you who are used to taking the I-STEP test or something like that, one of those standards-based tests, you don't have to pass one of the I-STEP tests any longer to graduate from high school, but you do have to demonstrate your readiness to graduate in one of these ways listed here. And there's lots of ways to make that happen. One, fulfilling your academic honors or technical honors. That's one way that you automatically demonstrate that. Another way is through test scores. Some students, through test preparation and classes they take, will score very well on the college entrance exams here, and will have that to use as their readiness indicator. The Asvab is a military aptitude assessment that can also be utilized. Doesn't mean that students necessarily are going into the military, but it's another type of assessment. So good news is there's lots of ways that students can do this through high school. Actually two other ways that really kind of go together have to do with the career programs at Anthus Career Center, and maybe some classes, programs that we offer at Northside, where students are doing a program at Anthus that results in a certification, which is kind of like if you think of like a lifeguard who goes through a training and gets certification. Obviously, that wouldn't satisfy your graduation requirements, but it's like that. It's like where you go through a set of coursework in a class and you get something at the end that shows that you successfully completed it. That's what that industry-based certification is, and we have a specific list of those. The other option for students is taking a series of 3 classes, which could be satisfied through Anthus Career Center. But most of what we're about to talk to you here today, when we talk about the programs, the graduation pathways, we'll talk about here in a minute, taking one class successfully each year in a subject area that is interesting to you, such as like business or TV and radio, successfully completing those classes with a C or better, one class per year, also meets that requirement. And then there's some other students that will meet that requirement by taking at least 3 dual credit classes while they're in high school. Students that are in the Vincennes program or that are pursuing the academic honors diploma, students will, just by the nature of them being in those programs, will typically meet that requirement. So the good news is there's lots of different ways to show your readiness to graduate that isn't tied to just one test. So you can really customize that. So, and the final thing I want to mention is in your scheduling guide, there's also a what's called a 4-year plan, so that you can see what do I typically, if I'm getting my Core 40 diploma, my academic honors diploma, what type of classes should I be taking each year? So that's in your scheduling guide, and your counselors can show you that. So I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you. This is really good for us to make sure that we're talking about this as much as possible, because it does come down to being accountable for knowing what you have to take and when. So as we move into this next section of our presentation, we'll start talking about the actual graduation pathways and start helping you to pick your classes. So we look forward to seeing you at Northside real soon. Thanks for joining us.